The night Jonah Briggs lost his virginity, he also lost his name. Not to some saloon girl with painted lips and empty promises. Not to a mail-order bride from back east who'd run screaming from his silence and scars. To an Apache widow with blood on her hands and winter in her eyes. She came to him through a sandstorm that December night in 1878, desperate, hunted, half dead, the kind of woman a man like him should have turned away, should have shot on sight, maybe, considering what her people took from him 20 years back. But Jonah Briggs hadn't touched a woman in 40 years of breathing, hadn't wanted to, hadn't dared, until her. And when he finally opened that door, when he let her collapse into his cabin, into his life, into the cold, empty space where his heart used to be, he started a war he couldn't win, against the U.S. cavalry, against a town that called him hermit and traitor, against every promise he'd made to stay alone, stay safe, stay dead inside. What happens when a man who survived by feeling nothing finally feels everything? Stay with me, because this story doesn't end where you think it does. They called him the Virgin Cowboy of Prescott. Not to his face. Nobody was that stupid. But Jonah heard the whispers when he came to town for ammunition and whiskey. Heard the snickers from ranch hands half his age, the pitying looks from married women who couldn't fathom a man reaching 40 without knowing the warmth of a woman's body. He never corrected them, never explained. How do you tell people that you're not afraid of women? You're afraid of losing them. His cabin sat 3 miles outside Prescott, Arizona territory, where the desert met the pines, and the wind carried the smell of sage and loneliness. 20 years he'd lived there. 20 years since he walked away from the U.S. Army, from civilization, from everything that reminded him of the night Chiricahua warriors painted his family's homestead red. He was 20 then. Came home from a hunting trip to find his father scalped, his mother's dress torn and bloody, his 10-year-old sister clutching a rag doll with one hand and holding her own guts in with the other. She died looking at him, asking him with her eyes why he wasn't there to save her. So Jonah built himself a prison disguised as freedom, bought land, raised horses, drank enough whiskey to keep the nightmares at bay, and he made himself one promise: never love anything you can't afford to lose. For 20 years, that promise kept him breathing. Until December 8th, 1878, when winter came early and brought a ghost with it. The sandstorm hit just after sundown. Jonah was 3 whiskeys deep, sitting by the fire, when he heard the horses. Distant shouts. Gunfire, swallowed by wind. Then, thump, thump, thump. Knuckles against wood. He grabbed his Colt, moved to the door. "Who's there?" Silence. Then a voice. Female. Breathless. Speaking broken English. "Please. They kill me." Every instinct screamed, "Don't open it." But he recognized that tone. That particular flavor of terror. He'd heard it before, in his sister's last gasps. He opened the door. She nearly fell into him. A woman, maybe 22. Apache from the tattoo on her wrist and the beadwork on her torn dress. Blood soaked her left shoulder. Her long black hair was matted with sand. But her eyes, God, her eyes, they weren't begging. They were demanding, daring him to turn her away. "Apache," he said flatly, gun still raised. She straightened, despite the pain. "Yes. Your people killed my family. Your people killed my husband." She swayed, caught herself against the doorframe. "We are even, I think." Jonah should have slammed the door, should have let the cavalry find her, should have remembered every reason he'd spent 2 decades hating her kind. But instead he heard himself say, "One night, then you're gone." She nodded. "Hey-oh." Thank you in Apache, a language he'd learned as an Army scout, a language he'd sworn never to speak again. He stepped aside, and with that single step, Jonah Briggs crossed a line he could never uncross. Her name was Kaya. He didn't ask. She didn't offer. For 3 days they existed in the same space, like two wounded animals, wary, watchful, waiting for the other to strike first. She slept by the fire. He kept his gun loaded, but on the second morning, he woke to find the cabin swept clean, firewood stacked, coffee brewing. She moved through his space like she'd always been there, her bare feet silent on the wooden floor, her movements efficient despite the wound in her shoulder. When she pushed a bowl of cornmeal mush toward him, he just stared. "Eat," she said. Her English was rough, shaped by a mouth that preferred softer sounds. "You are thin, sad thin." "I'm fine." "No." She touched her own chest. "You are thin here. Inside." He wanted to argue. Instead, he ate, and the food tasted better than anything he'd cooked in months. Because someone else made it. Because for one moment, his cabin wasn't a tomb. That night, her fever spiked. Jonah found her shaking by the fire, sweat pouring down her face, her shoulder wound hot and red with infection. She was mumbling in Apache, words he half understood. Mother, sky, help me, let me go. He had no choice. He had to undress her. His hands shook as he peeled the buckskin dress from her shoulders, exposing bronze skin sheened with fever sweat. He'd never seen a naked woman before. Not like this. Not real and vulnerable, and his to care for. Her body was lean from running, scarred from living. A knife wound across her ribs, burn marks on her forearm. The small, proud swell of her breasts rose and fell with labored breathing. And even delirious, even dying, she kept one hand wrapped around a bone-handled knife. She doesn't trust anyone, Jonah realized. Just like me. He cleaned the wound with whiskey, packed it with moss and yarrow root, wrapped it in clean linen, all while trying not to notice the curve of her hip, the hollow of her throat, the way her lips parted when she gasped in pain. When he finally covered her with a blanket, he had to step outside into the freezing night just to breathe. Because for 40 years, he'd been dead below the waist and numb above it. And now, God help him, he was starting to feel. By the 5th day, she was strong enough to work. Kaya didn't ask permission. She just started fixing things. The broken window shutter, the hole in the roof, the fence post that had been crooked for months. She moved with the grace of someone raised to survive, her hands quick and sure. Jonah watched from the porch, pretending to oil his saddle. "Why you help me?" she asked suddenly, not looking up from the fence post she was hammering. He considered lying. "Don't know." "I think you do." She turned to face him, and for the first time, he saw something other than fear in her eyes. Curiosity, maybe even warmth. "You are a good man. You just forget." "I'm not good." "No." She walked toward him, limping slightly. "Good man would shoot Apache woman. Easy. Safe." She stopped 3 feet away, close enough that he could smell sage and wood smoke on her skin. "You choose hard way." "Choose..." She struggled for the word. "Choose human." Nobody had called him human in 20 years. "Your people murdered my family," he said. But the words came out softer than he intended. "I was 20. Came home and found them. Found them. I know." Her voice dropped. "I see your eyes. Same eyes I have." She touched her chest again. "My husband. Soldiers kill him. 8 months. He was not good husband, but he was mine. And they shoot him for running. Then captain, white soldier. He want me. Say I be his. Say I have no choice." "Is that why you ran?" "Yes." She lifted her chin. "I choose death before I be... thing. You understand?" He did. He understood perfectly. That night, after they ate in their usual silence, Kaya did something unexpected. She placed a small bundle of dried wildflowers next to his plate. "What's this?" "In my people tradition," she said carefully, "when someone saves your life, you give them remember flower. So they know. I see you. I thank you. I not forget." Jonah stared at those flowers like they might explode. He'd saved horses, shot wolves, buried bodies, but nobody had ever thanked him like this. Like he mattered. "You didn't have to." "Yes," she interrupted. "I have to." Their eyes met across the table. Held. And in that moment, something shifted. Some invisible wall between them developed its first crack. 3 weeks passed like water through his fingers. December snow buried the world outside, trapping them in a pocket of warmth and wood smoke and growing awareness. They developed routines, rhythms, her humming Apache songs while she cooked, his reading aloud from dime novels he pretended not to enjoy, her laughing, actually laughing, when he stumbled over the ridiculous purple prose. "This writer," she said, pointing at the page, "he never see real woman." "How do you know?" "Real woman not have heaving bosom like stormy sea." She mimed an exaggerated chest thrust, and Jonah, for the first time in memory, laughed. God. He'd forgotten what that felt like. But it was the small touches that undid him. Her hand steadying his when he winced from an old injury. Her fingers brushing his when she passed him coffee. The way she stood close when she taught him an Apache phrase. Her breath warm against his ear. And then came the night he got kicked by his stallion. The horse caught him in the ribs, knocked him flat in the snow. Before he could even curse, Kaya was there, kneeling beside him, her hands on his chest, checking for broken bones with practiced efficiency. "Breathe," she ordered. He tried. Failed. Not because of the pain, because her palms were pressed against his bare chest. She'd ripped his shirt open, and he could feel the heat of her skin through the cold, and his heart was hammering so hard he thought she must feel it. "Ribs not broken," she announced. Then she looked down at him, and her expression changed, softened. "But you are shaking." "I'm fine." "No." She traced a finger along his collarbone, feather-light. "You shake because you not used to touch." "Yes?" He couldn't lie. Not to her. Not anymore. "Yes." "You never have, woman?" "Never." She absorbed that. Then quietly. "Why?" "Because everyone I love dies." The words came out raw. "My mother. My father. My sister Emma. She was 10, and I had to watch her." His voice broke. Kaya didn't say anything. She just moved closer, her hands sliding from his chest to his face, cradling his jaw. "I lost two," she whispered. "Husband. Village. Name. Everything." Her thumb brushed his cheekbone. "But I hear. You hear. We not dead yet. Kaya, I know you scared. Me too." Her eyes searched his. "But maybe we be scared together? Maybe that better than scared alone." And Jonah, 40 years old, virgin, hermit, coward, finally broke. He pulled her down and kissed her. It wasn't smooth. Their teeth clicked. His beard scratched her face. He had no idea what he was doing, only that he'd been starving his whole life, and she tasted like salvation. Kaya kissed him back with equal desperation, her fingers tangling in his hair, her body pressing against his despite the cold, despite everything. When they finally broke apart, both gasping, she smiled. Actually, smiled. "That was terrible kiss," she said. He laughed, a real full laugh that hurt his bruised ribs. "I'm out of practice." "You need more practice." She stood, offered her hand. "Come, inside, I teach you." He took her hand, and for the first time in 20 years, Jonah Briggs walked into his cabin without whiskey, without ghosts, without the weight of the past crushing him. Just a woman, and hope, and the terrifying possibility of being alive. That night, the blizzard raged outside. Inside, by the fire's amber light, Kaya undressed him slowly. Not with seduction, but with reverence, like she was unwrapping something precious and fragile. His shirt fell away, his belt, his boots. "You have many scars," she observed, tracing a bullet wound on his shoulder, a knife slash across his abdomen. "Soldier's scars," he managed. His voice was hoarse. "No." She pressed her palm flat against his chest, over his heart. "This is soldier scar. Here, where you hide." She was right. He'd been hiding for 20 years. "I'm afraid," he admitted. I don't know how to." "Shh." She kissed his jaw, his throat, the hollow behind his ear. "You know, body knows. You just need permission. Permission. To feel good. To want. To live." She pulled back, held his gaze. "I give you permission, Jonah Briggs. I give you me." And then she guided his hands to her waist, to the ties of her dress, showing him without words, "This is yours. I'm yours. Take me." The dress fell away. She stood before him in nothing but firelight and courage, her bronze skin glowing, her small breasts proud, her hips curved just enough to cradle a man. The tattoos on her arms told stories he couldn't read. The scars on her body spoke of survival. She was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen. "Touch me," she whispered. He did. Hesitantly at first, his calloused palm skating up her ribs, cupping her breast, feeling the weight of it, the softness, the way her nipple hardened against his thumb. She gasped, arching into his touch, and that small sound, that tiny moan of pleasure, unlocked something primal in him. He pulled her close, kissed her deeper, let his hands explore the terrain of her body, the dip of her waist, the swell of her hips, the heat between her thighs that made his head spin. "I want you," he confessed against her mouth. "God help me. I want you so much I can't breathe." "Then take me." She backed toward his bed, their bed now, pulling him with her. "I am not fragile. I will not break." They tumbled onto the mattress together, a tangle of limbs and need, and 20 years of loneliness seeking an end. She helped him with shaking hands, guiding him, teaching him, whispering encouragement in 2 languages. "There. Yes. Slow. Feel me. I'm here. You're here. We're alive." When he finally entered her, when her body opened around his, and he felt that impossible heat, that perfect friction, Jonah Briggs understood for the first time what it meant to come home. Not to a place, to a person. They moved together with the grace of the desperate, the rhythm ancient and new at once. She wrapped her legs around his waist, matched his thrusts, met his hunger with her own. Her nails raked down his back. His mouth found her breast, her throat, that spot behind her ear that made her cry out. "Say my name," she demanded, breathless. "I want hear you. Kaya." Again. "Kaya." She shattered first, her body going taut, her voice breaking on a sob that sounded like prayer. And he followed her over that edge, 40 years of dammed-up need, exploding in a white-hot rush that left him gasping, trembling, born again. Afterward, they lay tangled in sweat-damp sheets, her head on his chest, his hand stroking her hair. "Was that okay?" he asked, suddenly uncertain. She laughed softly. "You ask now? I mean, did you—" She propped herself up on one elbow, looked him in the eyes. "Jonah Briggs, you make me feel like human. Not widow, not Apache, not thing for white man to own. Just woman. Just me." She kissed him gently. "That is more than okay." He pulled her closer, buried his face in her hair, and let himself believe, just for this one night, that maybe he deserved this, deserved her, deserved to be happy. Outside, the blizzard howled. Inside, they slept like people who'd finally found shelter. But storms, like happiness, never last. They came at dawn. Jonah woke to the sound of horses, many of them, surrounding the cabin. He was out of bed in seconds, pulling on pants, grabbing his Winchester. Kaya was already up, dressed, knife in hand. Soldiers. Her face was calm, but her knuckles were white around the blade. They find me. A voice boomed from outside, cultured, Eastern, dripping with authority. Mr. Briggs, this is Captain Robert Whitmore, United States Cavalry. We know you're harboring an escaped Apache woman. Send her out, and there'll be no trouble for you. Jonah moved to the window, peered through a crack in the shutter. 10 soldiers in blue, rifles ready. And in the center, a man on a gray horse. Captain Whitmore, young and handsome and smug, the kind of officer who'd never seen real combat, but loved giving orders. Mr. Briggs, Whitmore continued, you were a fine scout once. Don't ruin your reputation over a savage. Kaya appeared at Jonah's elbow. I go. I should go. You have good life here. I not destroy that. He looked at her. Really looked. At the woman who'd brought him back from the dead. Who'd taught him to laugh, to touch, to want. Who'd given him 3 weeks of light and 20 years of darkness. And he made his choice. No. Jonah, you're not going anywhere. He grabbed his gun belt, started loading his Colt. They want you. They go through me. They will kill you. Maybe. He kissed her once, hard. But I'd rather die with you than live without you. Before she could argue, he kicked open the door and stepped onto the porch. 10 rifles swung toward him. Captain Whitmore, Jonah called out, his voice carrying over the snow. That woman you want? She's under my protection. You want her. You're going to have to shoot me first. Whitmore smiled, a thin, cruel expression. Is that really how you want this to end, Briggs? Dying for some Apache cunt? Jonah didn't answer with words. He shot the hat off Whitmore's head. The captain's horse reared. Soldiers raised weapons. Someone shouted. But Jonah kept his aim steady. Winchester now trained on Whitmore's chest. Next one goes through your heart. Get off my land. You're a dead man, Briggs. Been dead for 20 years. Doesn't scare me anymore. He cocked the rifle. But you look like you still have something to lose. For 5 long seconds, nobody moved. Then Whitmore wheeled his horse around. Fall back, he ordered through clenched teeth. This isn't over, Briggs. The whole territory will know what you are. An Indian lover. A traitor. You'll hang for this. Then I'll see you in hell, Captain. The soldiers withdrew, but slowly, rifles still raised, promising violence delayed, but not forgotten. When they finally disappeared over the ridge, Kaya yanked Jonah back inside. You are crazy. She was shaking, not with fear, but with something else. You just choose me over everything. Yeah. He set down the rifle, pulled her close. I did. Why? Why? I am nothing. I am your everything. He cupped her face in his hands, made her look at him. You're the first person in 20 years who made me feel like being alive was worth the pain. So yeah, I chose you. I'd choose you 100 times. She kissed him then, fierce and desperate and grateful. But they both knew the truth. Whitmore would be back, and next time he wouldn't come alone. 3 days later, Jonah rode into Prescott for supplies. He knew what was waiting. He went anyway. The whispers started before he even dismounted. The stares, the pointing. By the time he reached the general store, a crowd had gathered. That's him, someone hissed. The one who's keeping an Apache squaw. Heard he's fucking her. Probably got himself scalped by now, Dick first. Jonah ignored them, walked into the store. The owner, a man named Parsons who'd sold him goods for 15 years, looked him in the eye and said, "We don't serve Indian lovers here." "I have money." "Don't care." Parsons crossed his arms. "You made your choice, Briggs. Now live with it." Jonah placed 3 gold coins on the counter. "I need ammunition, coffee, salt. You can take my money, or I can take what I need. Your choice." He didn't wait for an answer, just grabbed what he came for and walked out. 2 men were waiting by his horse. "Traitor!" one spat and swung a fist at Jonah's jaw. He saw it coming, took the hit anyway. Let them get their anger out. When they were done, when he was bleeding from the mouth and his ribs were screaming, he climbed onto his horse and rode away. Kaya was waiting on the porch when he got home. She took one look at his face and started crying. Not delicate tears, gut-wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. "I ruin you," she wept. "I destroy everything. I should go. I should—" "Stop." He pulled her into his arms, held her while she broke apart. "You didn't ruin me. You saved me. But they hate you now. Your people weren't my people." He tilted her chin up, made her see the truth in his eyes. "You are. You're my people now. My family. My home." She searched his face. "You mean that?" Every word. That night, they made love again. Slower this time, gentler, with the weight of consequence hanging over them. Every touch was a vow. Every kiss a promise. "I choose you. I choose this. I choose us." And when they lay spent in each other's arms, watching the fire burn low, Jonah asked the question he'd been avoiding. "What do you want, Kaya? Really want?" She was quiet for a long time. Then, "I want to be free. Not running. Not hiding. Just free." She turned to look at him. "Is that possible?" "Maybe." He stroked her hair. "Montana Territory. Or Canada. Somewhere they don't know us. Don't care. You would leave? Your land? Your home?" This cabin was never home. Just a place to hide. He kissed her forehead. "Home is wherever you are." They decided to leave in 3 days. Just enough time to pack, to prepare, to say goodbye to the life Jonah had lived, and hello to the one waiting. But they should have left that night. Because Whitmore wasn't the patient kind. The attack came at midnight. No warning. No honor. Just gunfire, shattering the windows, and men shouting, and chaos exploding into their sanctuary. Jonah rolled out of bed, grabbed his rifle. "Get down." Kaya hit the floor, knife already in hand. "Briggs." Whitmore's voice from somewhere in the darkness. "Send her out, and I'll let you live." Jonah fired through the window, heard someone scream. "Fuck you!" More gunshots. Wood splintering. The cabin was surrounded, not by soldiers, but by hired guns. Men with no rules and no conscience. "I can't shoot them all," Jonah said, reloading. "There's too many." "Then we die together." Kaya crawled to the gun cabinet, grabbed his spare Colt, checked the chambers like he'd taught her. "I ready." He stared at her, this fierce, beautiful woman who'd rather die free than live enslaved, and felt pride surge through him. "Okay," he said, "but we make them remember us." They fought like devils. Jonah took out 3 men through the windows. Kaya shot 2 more when they tried to breach the door. For 10 minutes they held them off. Then a bullet found Jonah's shoulder. He went down hard, blood soaking his shirt, vision blurring. "Jonah!" Kaya was at his side, hands pressed to the wound, her face pale. "I'm fine. Keep shooting." "You not fine?" "Kaya, please." The door exploded inward. 2 men rushed in, guns raised. Kaya swung her Colt up, fired twice. Both men dropped, but the third man, bigger, faster, tackled her before she could reload. Jonah tried to stand, couldn't, watched helplessly as the mercenary pinned Kaya to the floor, his hands going for her throat. She thrashed, clawed, fought like a wildcat, but he was too strong. And then Whitmore walked in, stepping over bodies like they were furniture. "Well, well," he smiled at the carnage. "Looks like you two actually care about each other. How touching." "Let her go," Jonah rasped, bleeding out on the floor. "Oh, I'll let her go." Whitmore crouched beside Kaya, stroked her cheek while she snarled at him. "Right into my bed, where she belongs." "You bastard." "Call me what you want, Briggs. You'll be dead soon anyway." He stood, gestured to his man. "Kill him. Slowly. I want her to watch." The mercenary released Kaya's throat, raised his gun, and she grabbed the bone knife from her boot and drove it up through his jaw. He dropped, choking on blood and steel. Kaya rolled, grabbed the dead man's gun, and shot Whitmore in the shoulder before he could react. The captain staggered back, clutching the wound. "You bitch?" "No." Kaya stood, aimed at his head, her hands rock-steady. "I am not your bitch. Not your thing. Not your anything." She pulled the trigger. Whitmore's body hit the floor and didn't move. Silence crashed down. Kaya turned to Jonah, dropped to her knees beside him. "Stay awake, please. Please don't leave me." "Not leaving." He reached up, touched her face with bloody fingers. "You saved me. Again. We save each other." She pressed her forehead to his. "That is how we work." 6 months later, Montana Territory stretched cold and endless under a pale spring sky. The cabin they'd built was small, just one room, a fireplace, a bed. But it was theirs. No soldiers, no whispers, no past. Just them. Kaya was hanging laundry when the stranger rode up. A young man, maybe 20, looking lost. Jonah stepped onto the porch, hand resting on his holstered Colt out of habit. "Help you?" he called. The young man dismounted, approached carefully. "Sorry to bother you, sir. Just wondering if I could buy some water. My horse is lame, and I've got another 10 miles to—" He stopped mid-sentence, staring at Kaya. Jonah tensed. Here it comes. The judgment. The disgust. But the young man just tipped his hat. "Ma'am?" Kaya nodded. "I get water." She disappeared around the cabin, and the young man turned back to Jonah. "You two married?" It was a simple question. Innocent. But Jonah remembered Prescott. Remembered the hate. Remembered bleeding in the dirt for choosing love over acceptance. Not by law, he said carefully, but by choice. Jonah looked toward the corner where Kaya had vanished, then back at the stranger. "By every oath that matters." The young man smiled. "Good enough for me." He pulled out a coin. "For the water. And the advice." "What advice?" "That love's worth fighting for." He glanced toward the cabin, where Kaya had reappeared with a full canteen. "Even when the world says it's wrong." He took the water, tipped his hat again, and rode away. Jonah stood on that porch, watching him go, feeling something shift in his chest. For 20 years, he'd been dead. Then for 3 weeks, he'd been terrified. Then for 6 months, he'd been free. And now? Now he was just a man, with a woman he loved, building a life worth living. Kaya slipped her hand into his. "You okay?" "Yeah." He squeezed her fingers. "Better than okay." "Good." She rested her head on his shoulder. "Because I think we have baby coming." Jonah's heart stopped. "What?" She placed his palm on her still flat belly, smiled that rare, beautiful smile she saved just for him. "New life. You and me." He pulled her close, buried his face in her hair, and let himself cry for the first time in 20 years. Not from grief, from joy, from the impossible, terrifying, beautiful gift of having something, someone, to lose again. And this time, he wasn't afraid, because Kaya had taught him the secret. Love isn't about protecting yourself from loss. It's about living so fully that the loss, when it comes, was worth it. They called him the Virgin Cowboy of Prescott. They were wrong. Jonah Briggs lost his virginity the night he opened his door to winter and let warmth in. And he never regretted it. Not once. Not ever. If this story touched your heart, if you believe love is worth fighting for, leave a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more tales from the savage and beautiful West. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching from. Because stories like love connect us across distance. Until the next trail, friend.